tread on the ADA. Don't tread on the ADA. Don't tread on the ADA. Don't tread on the ADA.
My name is Denise, and Fred Pelk and I are here from Massachusetts. And it's been suggested that we start off with "We Shall Overcome." It's on the back of your song sheets, and it has great lyrics that have been written for this occasion by Michael Dashwood. We shall overcome. We shall overcome. We shall overcome someday. Oh, deep in my heart, I do believe that we shall overcome someday. We will free our people. We will free our people. We will free our people someday. Oh, deep in my heart, I do We will rise together. We will rise together. We will rise together someday. Oh, deep in my heart, I do believe that we will rise
Can you see it?
Welcome to Focus on Abilities, a program about issues affecting the lives of people with disabilities. I'm Lex Frieden, your host for today's program. We are filming here in Washington, D.C. in a special edition of Focus on Abilities to find out about the Olmstead case and what some people with disabilities are doing to indicate to the Supreme Court their views on this very important subject. Through the Good Resources, the Municipal Channel, and the Independent Living Research Utilization Program at ILRU in Houston, we're going to bring you the following program. We hope you enjoy it.
We've gathered here today and tonight because inside these concrete and stone walls, they'll decide the future of people with disabilities. They will decide if we have the right to live free out in the community, in our own homes, where we choose and how we choose. And they'll decide that for all people with disabilities. And we've come tonight and we're going to light a candle, each one of us. It's a candle of hope that justice continues to reign in this country, that the freedom that is afforded everyone else under the Declaration of Independence and civil rights is afforded to people with disabilities.
All right.
In 9 other states, folks are holding local vigils of their own, or press conferences, or rallies. They're showing their support in their way in their local areas. And you're doing it here, in this country's capital. I'd like to take this opportunity to introduce the father of the ADA in my mind, because he went around this country and raised the conscious level of every human being to understand that this country, the principles that this country was founded on must apply to all of us, or it can't apply to none of us. And I think this man did that. He went around this country in every state and he raised the conscious level of the entire country. I'd like to introduce at this time my friend Justin Dart.
Colleagues in ADAP, I love you.
We love you too.
And I can't tell you how proud I am to be here tonight with some of the great patriots of this nation. Bob Gapka, Linda Anthony, and Bill, Janine, Tia, and Lex, and Max, and I could go all the way around Janine, I could go all the way around the plaza here. Marcy, and Tom, and Denise, and Fred, and all of you. I love you, I really do.
We love you too, Justin.
And distinguished members of the Supreme Court, I love you too. Distinguished members of the court, we respectfully demand justice. We are Americans. We have a God-given right to choose where and how we will live. The reversal of the Olmstead decision would give states authority to crush our ADA rights to live in the most integrated setting. The reversal of the Olmstead decision would expand states' authority to imprison law-abiding Americans in institutions. This issue is very personal to me. With my disability, I would be in an institution or hospital if I could not afford the services which enabled me to be with my beautiful family. I would rather be dead than to be locked in an institution. Distinguished members of the court, we love America. We love the Constitution. We love the tradition of God-given rights that makes our nation the land of the free. And because we do, we will fight to the death for our freedom. United forever, we shall overcome. Free
Our people! Free our people! Now! Free our people! Now! Free our people!
I'd like to give you an opportunity to hear from the man who helped us, who opened the door to the realization to the whole country that yes, the Americans with Disabilities Act does mean that people with disabilities be treated as human beings and that they be given the right to live where they want to live and how they want to live. I'd like to introduce Steve Gold, a very good friend of mine from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, but he's the man who started with the Helen L. case that some of you probably have heard about, I would hope. But it established that government service be provided in the most integrated setting, and Steve was the man who got that done.
Thank you very much, Linda. As gratifying as it was to win the Helen L. decision and get the ball rolling about services in the most integrated setting. That feeling really doesn't compare with the incredible awe and admiration I have for the organizing efforts that you guys have done since January. Really, organizing. And you showed the...
This is Stephen Gold, an attorney from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. And Steve, what is the significance of this rally here in front of the Supreme Court tonight?
Well, the significance is tomorrow the Supreme Court's going to decide whether the federal regulations that the Department of Justice published in direct response to congressional requirement, and the regulation says that every public entity must provide its services in the most integrated setting appropriate to the person with needs of the person with disability. And the court, this is the first time this case, that issue has been before the court. And the critical importance is that if this regulation is not upheld, people with disabilities will be segregated and put in back rooms and just lost.
So this means to a lot of these people who are here tonight that they could be in a nursing home instead of here in the community.
They could be in institutions, they could be in warehouses, they can be in nursing homes, they can be in developmental centers, even though they don't have to be, solely because the state decides that's where they want them to be. I mean, this is really the Brown versus Board of Ed for people with disabilities. It's whether they're going to be integrated in the community or not.
Now, tomorrow the Supreme Court hears arguments in this
Yes.
case. Is that right?
That's correct.
And after that, what happens?
By June 30th, they will make a decision on whether this case relates to two specific women, both of whom have been living in the community now for a year, 2 years, both of whom are disabled, and the state of Georgia, where the case came out of, basically, I guess, wants to put them back in the institution, and even though they've been able to live in the community and don't have to be institutionalized. The case represents whether unnecessary segregation is prohibited or not by the Americans with Disabilities Act.
Very good. Thank you very much.
My pleasure.
And it's about integration, not segregation. I'm someone who believes that segregation is one of the worst things that happens to our people. It separates us. It makes us feel less than we are. Because we are being treated less than we are. We don't deserve that. It's about integrating people with disabilities into life. Not just into the community, but into life. And I'm so proud that all of you came here tonight to do this, to light this candle of hope. Hopefully it will light the way for justice, so that justice will find its way into these walls tomorrow. Last but not least, the third thing this is about, it's about real choice. Choice. Not the fact that when you get older or something happens to you, you have to go into a nursing home, or because you need assistance with your daily care, you get put away into places that aren't safe. It's about real choices about where you live. So remember those three things. Civil rights, not state rights. Integration, not segregation. And real choice. That's what we want. So let's light those candles and let's let them burn all night so that justice can see its way into those walls. Page 6. This little light of mine. Life of mine. Oh, sorry. This little life of mine. Folks, we also have posters. We have these T-shirts that I'm wearing. Let us know if you want to purchase them. We have them available. And we have the Raging Against the Dying of the Light poster. Institutions are not solutions. I'm gonna let it shine, this little life of mine. I'm gonna let it shine, let it shine of mine. I'm gonna let it shine, let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Stop it out, go!
Ain't it?
I'm gonna let it shine. Don't let all this count me out. I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine. Let it shine.
Don't hide it in a nursing home. No, I'm gonna let it go out. Don't hide it and take my life. I'm gonna let it count. Let it count. Let it count.
Free our people! Free our people!
Our homes, not nursing homes. Our homes, not nursing homes. Our homes.
Okay, we're going to line up along the stairs, everybody.
What do we want? Real choice. When do we want it? Now. What do we want? Real choice. When do we want it? Now. What do we want? Real choice. Free our brothers, free our sisters, free our people now. Free our brothers, free our sisters, free our people now. Free our brothers, free our sisters, free our people now. Free our brothers, free our sisters, free our people now. Free our brothers, free our sisters, free our people now.
Only 4 shows, probably about 2 hours.
You gonna stay here all night?
No, going to bed in about 5 minutes.
Were you involved in the original ADA when you were up here?
I wrote the Senator Weicker at the time and Tony Quayle.
Good talking to you.
There's anything we can handle? Go out. Where's that? Somebody else.
I don't know any Spanish.
Nosotros unidos no nos moverán.
Or your family right now.
We're hanging out at
Oh, that's good. Yeah.
A lot of people.
Well, yeah, you do need that kind of stuff. Right.
Our rights, not states' rights. 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 Our homes, not nursing homes. Our homes, not nursing homes. Our homes, not nursing homes. Not nursing homes.
This is Bob Kafka from Austin, Texas, from an organization called ADAPT. Bob, what's ADAPT stand for?
ADAPT now is just ADAPT. It used to stand for the American Disabled for Attendant Programs Today, but our acronym is now just ADAPT.
And ADAPT has a kind of a vested interest in this demonstration here tonight, right?
Our whole campaign is what we're calling the Campaign for Real Choice, is to give individuals and families a choice to where they live and receive services. And if Olmstead is overturned, people will potentially be forced back into institutions and won't have the right to choose community-based services.
You and I are here from Texas in front of the Supreme Court in Washington, D.C. What is the implication of what's happening here for people in Texas, people in Houston?
Well, in people in Houston, if some family or an individual with a disability is confronted with needing services, in Texas, where there's waiting lists on almost all the programs, they will have to either go into a nursing home or a state institution. They will have no other choice.
So even though we know that people can live in the community at a lower cost, or at least no more cost than in an institution, those people would be forced by the state to live in a nursing home or an institution.
Right, and you correctly stated, forced by the state legislature and Governor Bush to basically choose to have to go into that institution because they cannot have the choice of getting community-based services, even though, like you said, it's cheaper, we know the quality is better, and people do better.
Now, as I understand it, this case is about 2 people from Georgia who were living in the community. The state said they should live in an institution. and the courts up and down the line have supported the people living in the community.
Right, and in point of fact, what's happened was they were originally in state institutions actually funded by public dollars in institutions, and they actually had to sue to get the right to live out in the community. One now lives in a group setting, a small group setting, the other has their own apartment living with a roommate, and at a cheaper rate. It is unbelievable. The state of Georgia actually has not put them back in the institution, but then appealed it to the Supreme Court.
Now, Bob, the implications again from the standpoint of Texas, as I understand it, Texas is one of the few states in the country that actually joined Georgia in this appeal. Is that right?
Texas was one of the first of the 22 states to ask the Supreme Court to take the case, and is only one of 7 remaining on the case now. We have had meetings with Governor Bush, the Attorney General Cornyn. They are using the line that this is a states' rights issue. We have said this is a civil rights issue. This is not a states' rights issue.
So out of the 22 states that were originally on this appeal, there are only 7 left. The others withdrew because they changed their mind about the validity of this argument?
By talking with the disability community, we have compelling letters from Massachusetts Attorney General, from the Louisiana Attorney General, from the Utah Attorney General, basically saying because of their relationship with the disability community and their commitment in their state to community-based services, they withdrew because they didn't understand originally the implications, but now did.
Now, didn't Texas hear from the disability community?
They have heard over and over. We have had resolutions passed. We've had archdioceses. We've had city councils. Travis County has passed resolutions. Basically, Governor Bush has said he is supporting the decision by Attorney General Cornyn of state sovereignty. I mean, this is very much like George Wallace standing in the schoolhouse door saying segregation now, segregation forever. It is really no different. This is the same states' rights. If this was people of color, if this was a women's issue, people would be appalled. And because it's just people with disabilities, I believe our governor and our attorney general is getting away with it.
Bob, some of the people here that are going to spend the night tonight, if this case turns out to support the state of Georgia and the state of Texas and the other states that have appealed this, some of these people would be living in institutions. I mean, their states would put them back in nursing homes.
It's quite possible. I mean, again, because states will then have the right to just basically limit the community services, and there'll be entitlements to institutional services. And not only the people here who are some of them receiving services, but anybody who is born with a disability in the future, anybody who breaks their neck, somebody who becomes older, are now going to be forced into institutions because if the Supreme Court overturns Olmstead.
Okay, but the hope of all these people is that the Supreme Court will support the lower court's rulings and that people will be able to live in the community.
Right.
Not have to live
in fact, we are hoping that the Supreme Court will see the argument that most integrated setting makes a lot of sense, and it makes sense for all services, including community services.
Okay, well, good luck to you. And
thanks
we'll get an update
being
later
out
on.
There. I appreciate you all coming out, and keep working in Texas.
All right, thanks, Bob.
Bye-bye.
This is Marcy Roth, who organized this affair tonight. Marcy, are you happy with the turnout?
We're real pleased with the turnout. Look, this is just outstanding.
Marcy, how did you organize this? One person getting all these people together with candles?
Several people. This is never one person. Several people put heads together around the country. The challenge is that we're really wanting to highlight what's happening on May 12th. That's really where we want to bring people together. May 12th is going to be a huge turnout. We've got folks, I was just talking to folks from Amtrak, we've got folks from all over the country coming in on May 12th. And so planning for the vigil, we didn't want to take away from what will be a real big turnout.
So this is kind of a modest
This is real modest.
statement.
Yeah, this is real modest. We're sort of thinking about it as a sort of like a multi-step process. You can't educate the Supreme Court in the same way, you know this better than anybody. You can't educate the Supreme Court in the same way as you would our friends across the street at Congress. You can't just go on their doorstep and, or do the things that we might do to educate them. And so the challenge is figuring out how to get their attention, how to get them to be thinking beyond what they read in their briefs about real people and real issues.
So do you think members of the Supreme Court actually know people are here tonight?
Well, I can tell you that the New York Times covered tomorrow's oral arguments. Excuse me. Yesterday, they did an editorial today. The turnout that we had in the press this evening would indicate that there's going to be stuff in their morning paper when they open it up over their breakfast cereal.
Right.
So I would hope that we're using one of the very few mechanisms that we have for getting to the justices to deliver the message that says people across this country are absolutely in lockstep together, arm in arm, around the Americans with Disabilities Act. And
how many people with disabilities and family members and others do you think were here tonight?
I think we were pretty close to 100 people.
And do you think many of these people will spend the night here with their candles?
You bet.
All right.
You bet. Did you bring your sleeping bag? Got your jammies?
Good talking with you, Marcy.
Good talking with you.
Congratulations.
Yeah, you too.
Thank you for watching Focus on Abilities. We're on location here in Washington, D.C. at the Supreme Court, talking with people with disabilities about what they're doing here at the Supreme Court in regard to this court's action in the future. And we want to thank you all for watching us. I'm Lex Frieden, and please join us next time.